I wanted to be a multimillionaire.
I want to be the judge of how successful or unsuccessful I'm going to be.
Take control of your life.
I mean, the hustle was still in me.
Nice to meet you, my brother.
Likewise.
Victor Harvey.
That's it.
Junior, second,
Senior.
third? Senior.
Yeah, I got a son. He's the junior.
He's a junior.
Yeah.
Where this all got started for you, man? Born and raised where?
Columbus, Ohio, actually.
Well,
Yeah. I was in college, went to Bowling Green, and I moved to Miami when I was like 23.
how was it growing up in Ohio?
Cold. But
Remember, I'm from Connecticut.
yeah. But it was cool, man. It was a calmer like type environment, even though, where I grew up was the inner city. But it was cool. I mean, I've been back. It's changed a lot. But I've been in Florida for so long. Like, that's really where I'm from.
Both parent household or?
No, so my mother passed away when I was 10. And so my dad raised us by himself. And so I know what that's like. But, you overcome it. And it was just the best life that we could have. I mean, we didn't have much, but,
How many brothers and sisters?
I have 3 brothers and 1 sister. And I had a sister that passed away also. But it was cool, man.
How was it like growing up with a single father? You don't hear that often.
I mean, it was tough because, he went to work every day. I'll say that. I commend him for, a lot of people would have walked out, with having kids.
It's an easy thing to do.
And but it really taught me, the value of work. I seen my dad go to work every day. And, it really made me, strive to be somebody, to get out of that environment because, nobody in my neighborhood went to college. Nobody in my family went to college. So I was like, this is something I'm going to do. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go on a scholarship, to play sports. And that's what got me out of there. So, and it changed my whole life.
The ages, are you the middle, youngest, old?
I'm the middle, actually. Yeah.
You're the middle child, so you saw some people that did mistakes before you.
Mostly from the neighborhood. I always hung out with the older guys in the neighborhood, and I saw, a lot of the things that they were doing, and I did not want to do that. It's like they were stuck there like their whole life, and I just knew that there had to be more, and so that's what I always pushed for.
What's some of the things the neighborhood taught you? Neighborhood you grew up in?
You learn the value of hustling. Let me just say that. When you have to have some money, not for material things, but just pure survival, to eat, to be able to, get clothes and some of those things. And I saw, that, but it also taught me, toughness. You get picked on, you get in fights, you have nobody to back you up. So, you learn that part. And then, but the most important thing I think that it taught me is the resilience to get out of there. There, again, I keep saying it, like there had to be more. So I was an avid reader, even as a young kid. And so I just knew that there was a bigger world out there and I wanted to see where it was at and I wanted to get there.
How did you get connected to reading? Who was the influence on that?
It was me, to be honest. It was, outside of running around the neighborhood, playing football and basketball and whatever else we were doing, it was an escape for me to, sit there. And again, it was like being in Wonderland, so I would just find books to read. And, I said, this is something that is going to get me, it's going to help me get out of here. I educated myself a lot, outside of just school. I knew there had to be more than 2 + 2 = 4. You know what I'm saying? So it was like, again, it was just more of a dream is pretty much what it was.
So growing up with a single father, talk to me about some of the pros before we go into the cons.
The pros, I mean, I can tell you more of me being a single father,
Okay.
more so than what the pros were. I didn't, outside of, not abandoning us, keeping a roof over our head. I guess that's a pro. Keeping food on the table, clothes on our back. but that was about it, boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was like it was tough.
What about the nurturing? Because I know that's a different from growing up with a father and a stepmother. I think when I look at my life now, like, man, my stepmother was good to me, but I don't think like my biological mother would be. That nurturing. Right. Did you get a lot of that, or was
not at all?
Let's get it done.
It was a complete opposite. And a lot of times when a parent or a husband, or I don't really know about a wife, but they go through this period of experiencing like maybe loneliness or something like that, so they're seeking someone to replace that person that might have passed away, and when they think they found that becomes their focal point, and you forget that you got some little ones out there that need you. And to me, just being there physically and providing, a house and some clothes and stuff like that, that's not it. That's not the most important thing. It's teaching, a boy how to be a man. And I didn't get that. I taught myself how to be a man, and I raised my kids differently. So that's the tougher part of it. And I hate to say it, but that's facts.
That's real. And growing up in Ohio and playing sports, what sports did you play?
I played basketball and football.
Okay.
So I got very lucky, and one of my professors told me, he said, going to the pros is tough, and most guys, no matter how long you play, it's not going to last. So you got to get your education. And I took that very serious. And, so when I graduated, I had one job in my whole life, and I worked at a gas station, right? And they fired me for no reason. And so I had a human resources professor, and when I told him about it and why it happened, he said, "Oh no, we're not taking that." And so he guided me through, how to file a lawsuit, a discrimination lawsuit, okay. Right? I'm like freaking 19 years old or something, right? I don't even know, maybe 20, I don't even know. So we did it and won, right? And so they offered me my job back, which I didn't take. They offered me all my back pay, which I did take. They offered me a small settlement, which I did take, which I thought was all the money in the world. It was $3,000.
Oh, you were rich.
But I told myself at that point I would never work for anybody ever a day in my life, and I never have. So that's that was another lesson learned.
So going for sport, you say you received scholarships.
Yeah.
So what was the scholarship for, and then where did you go?
So I went to Bowling Green State University. So I had a scholarship to play basketball, and I went there. And then my last year I played football. So
where's Bowling Green? I don't know.
It's in Ohio.
Okay.
Yeah. So it was cool, man. It was the best experience.
So you transitioned sports for what was your favorite sports? First of all, the basketball or the football, and then why did you transition at the end of the year, the last senior year?
Mostly because the basketball coach that recruited me wasn't the one that I finished up with. And so, and especially at the college level, the ones that recruit you, you're a priority, obviously, or they wouldn't have recruited you. But then when the next coach comes in, you may not be that priority. They got their own guys, and they got to try and show that, they brought those guys in for a reason, even if they're not better than you. And so I just decided, with the advice of a friend of mine, to make the transfer, and that's what I did.
So I'm trying to visualize, you're in school and growing up in Ohio with a parent. Did the void of not having a mother affected you a lot, you think, earlier on? Or did you know, or you didn't know, or?
I didn't really think that much about it. I thought more about, how to get to the next step. Obviously, you had friends that had, 2-parent households, and they, some of them kind of take you in a little bit. It doesn't fill the void, but it does give you some sense of understanding of what that's like. But it's more being focused on, like I said, is getting out of there and trying to find a better life. But I taught myself a lot, man, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
So was it an escape thing, or just running away from the things that you saw, or the reading that you were doing made you feel like there was more in other markets?
That was it. It's like when you read about, opportunities and, you read about, success, not just in sports, but in business. And I always knew I wanted to be a businessman. I always knew that. And you read about it, but then you when you don't see it firsthand because that's not in your neighborhood, you don't really see Black people owning anything. They're taught, especially back then, to go to work. That's what you do. You get a job, you stay there for 30 or 40 years, and you retire. Well, that wasn't me. And so I just knew. And at the time, my older sister, encouraged me to move to L.A. So I ended up moving to L.A. before I moved to Miami.
Why she encouraged that, though?
Because I wanted to be a rap star. And she said, that ain't ever going to happen in Columbus, Ohio. Right. So I moved to L.A. My sister was married to a movie star. Michael Winslow, the guy in Police Academy, makes all the noises and stuff. That's my brother-in-law. Wow. So I moved to L.A., and at the time, Michael was obviously doing several movies, but he had one coming up in Miami. And so my sister was my quote-unquote manager as well as his, right? And so part of the deal, she said, you got to give my brother a song on the soundtrack. And so they asked me if, do you have a demo, which was the key thing back then, right? So I had a little 3-song demo. I played it. They're acting like I knew it sucked, right? But I just, that was the best I had, right? And so they said, okay, we'll do it. But we're going to assign him to our sister company, it was a record company in Miami. And so we all moved to Miami. And right before Hurricane Andrew.
When you say you all moved, what are you talking about?
Me, my sister, and my brother-in-law moved to Miami. Wow. And so Michael's working on this movie, and they took my 3 songs and threw it in the trash and said, we're going to put you in the studio with one of our producers. And so I did that, and I recorded my first single, which was called Can't Stop It. And it did reasonably well, just in Miami. It was pretty much playing. It was on the radio. It's back when the box video thing was around. So we shot a video, and it was kind of cool. And then my sister passed away. And once that happened, it was like, okay. So I went into this little funk again. I'm like, okay, my mom's gone. Now my older sister's gone. And I'm like, what's going on, right? And so I had to pull it, had to get it all together. I went broke, actually. And, but at the Hurricane Andrew thing, my best friend from college actually moved to Miami. He was in the construction business. So he said, hey, come stay with me. So I went and stayed with him for a while. And I said, man, I got to do something. Nobody would hire me because remember I told you I never had a job. Right. So I had no experience and nobody would hire me. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start a sports agency. And he said,
where did that come from, though?
Again, it's just that will and that drive of I don't know if it's just the entrepreneurial spirit, but it's a vision. It's a belief that I had in myself. And I picked up the yellow pages and I looked for sports entertainment lawyers, right? Found one that was, I don't know, call it 10 miles from me. I took my last couple bucks, caught the bus down there, sat with Richard and said, this is what I want to do. This is who I am. And we talked for about 3-4 hours, and he says, all right, I'm in. And I was like, okay. I said, I'll take 60%, you take 40. He said, oh, no. He said, I'll take 60, you take 40 if I'm putting up the money. And he said,
wait, I want to catch on. So you had an idea, I'm going into the sports business, management business. Why did you call the attorney because you knew of him or you didn't even know?
I picked up the yellow pages. He was the first one I saw. And I caught the bus to his office. Never met him a day in my life.
And you telling him what?
I'm telling him my vision of starting a sports agency to take basketball players overseas. Because at that time, if you didn't make it in the NBA, obviously there wasn't all these D leagues and G leagues and all that other stuff. So the next route was to go overseas. And you could make a decent living over there. And each team was allowed to have 2 Americans. And I knew a lot of guys that didn't make it to the NBA. And I started with some I knew in Ohio. And I told him what I wanted to do. He says, okay, what do you need? I said, I need a fax machine. I need $1,200 to get an apartment. I need a car. And I need $500 for my pocket. I said, you do that, I guarantee you will be successful. We go buy the fax machine. He says, get the top of the line fax machine. Got it. We go to the car dealership. I'm used to having nice cars, right? And I was like, okay, he's talking to the manager, general manager. I'm like, this is what I'm talking about. Then we get on the elevator. We go up to the 5th floor. And I said, what is this? And I had a sales guy with me. He said, oh, this is all the junk that's going to the auction tomorrow. I was like, you got to be kidding me. And I said, what's the most expensive car up here? He was like, well, we got a Thunderbird or something for $5,000. I'm like, I'll take it, right? I did that. Long story short, it went from that day to us becoming #1 in the world. We had all-star sports agents. We had more players placed overseas than any other agency in the world. And I was one of the first to take women overseas. This is before the WNBA and everything. Long story short, we grew that business to be very successful. I said, buy me out. He was like, what? I said, buy me out. He said, for what? I said, I'm starting my own record company. He was like, what? And I said, yeah, I'm starting my own record company. Because I told you I only had that one song with the record company I was with, but I was under contract for 2 more years. But I had no money. So when I went back to them to get another advance, they said no. So I had to sit for like 2 years. That's why I started a sports agency. Well, once I took that time, I told you I was always a reader. I read every book I could on how to have your own record company, right? I read it about distribution and marketing and promotions and how to get on the radio and all this other stuff. So Richard bought me out, and a guy that I had become very close with said, you need to move back to Ohio. You need to make amends with your father. And he was like, this gentleman told me, he said, you're like a son to me. He's like, you're more like a son than my own son. And he was like, and that's where all your connections are, is in Ohio. He said, you need to move back there, and started there. So I went back. I took the money that I had. I moved back. I got my team back together, the same ones that we did that demo tape with.
Them three songs.
But this time, everybody's a lot better. And I said, look, guys, I can't really pay you. I said, because I'm going to put everything into starting our own record company. I said, again, you trust me, we're going to be successful. So we did an album with the first record called The Rise, The Fall, The Rise. And it went crazy. I made millions, and I was 26.
So before we go in there, I want to touch on something. I want to speak on something. And as a question for you, why do you believe he was so locked in and believed in you?
You're speaking about Richard, the attorney?
Richard, the attorney.
I think that he trusted me. I think that when people meet or, speak, they can see if somebody's sincere, if they have a real passion for it. I think a big part of being successful is your passion, your resilience, and your ability to overcome obstacles. And so here you have a guy, me, speaking of, that, had some moderate success before I even met him, with the first record and some other things. And then, so if you can do it once, you could probably do it again if you have the right resources and the right people around you.
What do you think carried you on? Was it the belief system? Was it the information that you studied that got you to the next chapter, even after that whole thing?
It's just that resilience, that refusal to give up, to be successful. I've always believed that, success is when opportunity meets preparation. And, everybody's going to get a turn. But you got to be ready. And so I prided myself on trying to be ready if I had that opportunity.
And then what gave you the discernment, the knowledge? Like when the guy told you you need to go back to Ohio, go back and work it out with your father, go back home and go, put in the work there. Like what made you even believe that?
I trusted him. And I knew that he really, really cared about me as like a son.
Right.
And I saw, how his relationships in Miami, were benefiting him, and so if he believed that mine would be stronger, going back, and I had nothing here. I had nobody, and I had nobody, my only family I had was gone. And so, I said, you know what, I'm gonna go back, and that's what I did.
And the moment you touched down in Ohio, what was that experience like?
I hit the ground running.
So what's some of the things you did when you got there?
I got there, I called my guy that was helping me produce the records. I called my background singer, and I called one of my boys that, would, say some lyrics here and there. It was just the 4 of us. We cut that record in my boy's apartment, and then we took it to the studio and finished it. I mean,
so were you the artist or you got other artists?
I was the artist.
So you did it?
Yeah, Taipan. Yeah,
you
go on
you
YouTube
went to the
and see.
mud for real.
Yeah.
But even you as so you were the investor, the artist, all in one. Was it an independent label or did you have?
It was my own label. We did our own distribution. We did everything. And so what I would do, some of the things I would do is we would call record stores all over the country and, ask them, have you heard it? Do you guys carry Taipan? The Rise, the Fall, the Rise. He's the hottest artist in the Midwest. And of course they would say, no, they never heard of it, right? And, you need to get it because he's coming there to do a show. And we'd look up what clubs were hot, and we say he's going to, call it Club ABC, whatever it is. They're like, really? Okay, we'll take 5 CDs or 10 CDs, whatever. Bam, we were getting $8 to $10 a pop. So we're on the phones calling, like all over doing
sales already from the beginning.
And then we would call the clubs and say, the same club I mentioned, and say, hey, ABC record store just picked up this record. This guy's hot, whatever. He's going to be coming through, Detroit, he's finishing up a show in Lansing, which is two hours away. You need to book him now. And they say, oh, what's he going for? I throw the number out and, we'll pay this. I said, let me talk to him. I'll call you back. I sit there about 10 minutes. I'll call you back.
It was you the whole time.
And it was me the whole time. And I'll call him back and say, okay, he'll do it for this. Boom, you book that show. Then you call Lansing where you said you already had a show and tell them you're booked in Detroit. And that's how we did it.
So you did a whole tour off of it.
Yeah.
So, and did you learn all that from reading or just was the hustle again?
It's the hustle, man. That's the hustle. It's like understanding like, yo, we got to get out there, man. It's you can't just sit there. It ain't going to come to you. You got to go get it,
But then, like I said, you're just, clearly you just activated. You just grinding, you just hustling. You weren't worrying about if you were doing it right or wrong.
I didn't know right or wrong. It was my first time doing it. You know what I'm saying? So
you had nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose. It was just, let's go out there and get it, and try to, I learned some of the stuff from being signed to a label, and I learned some of the things that they were doing, and I did take some of those methods and some of those things and apply it, when I had my own thing. So it wasn't like I totally just made up everything, but.
What's some of the losses that you took in that whole process?
Be honest, I didn't really lose, man, with that whole record thing. It was a good run, and it just, the times changed though, like CDs went away and it was just, all these other things and, but that was it, man. It was a great run.
What's the next venture after that, after the record label?
So, a lot of people back then, a lot of artists and things were, not investing, but they were buying all the jewelry and the cars and all that other stuff. I wasn't into none of that. I started investing in real estate. And so
where does that come from though?
It was just another thing of hey, this is something I want to do. It's a long-term investment, understanding it. And, I read about it and I started, buying houses and then I bought my first hotel in 2003 or something.
Hold on, brother. Like you just threw that in there like it was a regular day. We're not gonna do that right now. Hold on. You gotta slow down a little bit. So you in the entertainment business, you stack it. But one thing I'm learning about you is that reading has carried you a long way. Every time you want to learn something or you want to do something, you read on it. So you're in the entertainment industry, you shift over, you got money in your pocket now. You say I want to make long-term investment or I just want to invest in something?
I want to invest. So I bought my first house at 23 years old or something like that. And I sold it at 24 just because I had a little bit more money. So I bought the first house for like 65, call it, and I sold it for like 90 in like a year. So I was like, oh man, this real estate stuff, this is where it's at. And that's when I started doing investing in real estate.
So was it more single family, multiple?
It was single family mostly until I bought that hotel.
How did that happen?
I wanted a hotel. And I think part of, now that I think back, a lot of what I did was I saw nobody else that looked like me doing it. And I said, you know what? Not because I wanted to be the first, but I just wanted to do something different because, again, the people that I saw doing things, I didn't want to do that. So I said, I'm going to do something different. And so when I had the opportunity, I said, you know what? I don't know anybody buying hotels. And so, I ended up making a deal with a guy, and He told me what he wanted, and I didn't have that much money, and didn't think I could get financed. And so he says to me, after talking to him, meeting with him several times, he says, "You know what? You remind me of me." And I said, "How's that?" And he was like, "When I came to this country," he said, "I didn't have anything." And, he told me, how he put it together. He said, "Here's what I'm going to do. You come up with X amount of dollars, and I'll be the bank, and I'll carry the note." Right. And that's what happened. And so we started remodeling the hotel and things like that. And I was going to conferences and meeting people and things like that. And then I got...
How many doors in the hotel?
So that one was a 250 room because it was a former Marriott.
There goes again, my brother. You real good at this, man. There's a couple steps I want to catch up on. So you got the guts. You just believe you can do anything you want.
I try.
Clearly, you went from single family homes to say I'm gonna buy a 250 door hotel.
Correct. With a restaurant.
Because it's Tuesday. We'll just do it today. like it got to be something else. It got to be something else that you didn't even have the money.
Nope.
But you went back in there and spoke to that man, and then he trusted you again.
Yep. And so what I did was I went and got Clarion Hotels, which is a big chain.
It's a flagship hotel.
And to say, all right, we agree to flag it. And at the time, pretty much.
How old are you at that time?
I'm like 30 at that time. And I think something like that. And so at the time, pretty much all of the big hotel companies were having initiatives to get more Black people into the hotel industry. And Clarion was one of them. And so they give you like discounted management, fees and reservation fees and stuff like that. So I was able to get Clarion to come on board. I was able to get, a large restaurant chain to agree to lease the restaurant. So I said I'm going to put a spa in there, right?
How, my brother? How?
So I had this vision of what I wanted with this hotel, right? And so I said, let me go get a big name spa, people to agree. So I put it all together. So it was like, okay, this is going to be occupied. Started the renovations. Before I even finished, I sold the whole thing for a lot of money. Before I even finished the hotel, I sold the vision of what I was going to do. That's what happened.
So you're out. I don't even know how to explain it. I'm stuck right now. That's crazy. You believed you could do it. You read on it. You put in the work. You weren't even finished with the project, and you sold it.
Nope.
At what point do you not believe this is real?
I knew it was real. I knew it was just a stepping stone to doing what I was going to do. So what I ended up doing is I ended up getting 2 in Miami after that, and I moved back to Miami.
Sold the one in Ohio. Now you have the capital. Your next transition is going back to Miami to buy 2 of them.
Yep. Well, I didn't buy 2 at the same time.
But you already had the vision.
Yeah, and this was like in the mid 90s when, the real estate market's going crazy. And, we were doing condo conversions and, just a lot of different things and, doing extremely well. And
at 30 years old,
yeah.
Children already at that point?
No, I had my daughter when I was 32, I think. Yeah, let me see, she's 20. Yeah, 32, and then my son a year and a half after that.
So all this is happening in Miami. I could only how was that experience just from being in that capacity in Miami, moving like this? How was that?
It was cool, man. When I had the kids, when I had the kids, I had moved back to Ohio, right? And they were there till they were like 5 or 6, and then we moved back to Florida. We've been here ever since. And they're 25 and 24 now. So we came back, and I'm still doing the real estate stuff and some other stuff, and that's when I got into the liquor business.
So before I want to touch real estate real quick, because you've done some unbelievable thing on that. And the reason I'm saying believable because I've never spoke to another brother that was 29, 30, doing this, developing that many doors and then going down to Miami. I mean, I've met 40, 50, 60-year-old brothers that have done it. That's in the Marriott business also. So your first hotel in Miami, was it hotel or was it conversion of condos?
No, it was a hotel. It was independent. We didn't have a flag on it.
Why did you go from not from a flag flagship hotel to a.
Well, it wasn't
independent?
flagged when we got it. And so we just kept it where it was at for the time being. Occupancy rate was good. You didn't really need one.
'Cause you're in Miami, also.
Right. You know, which is a whole different market. You know, it's the home of boutique hotels,
Mhm.
you know. And then, you know, we didn't need a management company. We didn't need a reservation system, like I said, because the occupancy was already there. So that's what we did. And then we leveraged that one to get another one.
Did you sell them or you
No, we ended up selling them.
You ended up selling them?
Yeah.
What was next for you after that? After you sold them?
What did I do after that? After that, I just kind of chilled for a minute. But
yeah.
But
Raised children.
we had bought an apartment building. I think we had about 120 units. We converted them all to condos. And so we were starting to sell those, and then that's when the whole market collapsed.
When you say we, is it you with a partner?
So I had
or
I had a partner.
you
Yeah,
had a partner in there?
yeah.
How even that partnership happen? Was it someone that you knew or was
Somebody I just met, you know, in Miami, and we were talking, and he was doing the same things I was doing, and we formed a nice friendship and decided to move forward, and that's how it went.
So you're still in real estate.
I
Or
am.
You're
Yeah.
still, are you as an aggressive investor?
No, so now I only do my own stuff. Like I buy mostly all commercial, and then we develop it. So our first project, as you probably already know, is the one we're doing on Sistrunk in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
So I'm working with the CRA on that project, and
Speak a little bit about that project. What that project entail?
so I've been buying property over there for 10 years, and just knowing that eventually that was going to be the area to go to, and being in the spirits business, I was looking for somewhere to build my distillery, and I was looking at a different area, and the gentleman who runs the CRA said, "Why don't you put it on Sistrunk?" And I was like, "Well, there's got to be some kind of incentive to come over here because it ain't ready yet, right?" And so I went, applied and did my thing, and they awarded me $2.5 million to build over there. And I said, "Okay, I'll do it." And so that's where we're at. And then I just started acquiring even more property over there. And so we're hoping that we're going to break ground next month. We got set back a little bit with COVID and then some other things, but we should break ground next week.
So next month?
Next month. I'm sorry, February.
So next month. So what does that business entail? The distillery. Could you give a little bit more information on that?
So with the distillery, obviously that's where we'll make our spirits at. We'll create new spirits. Different lines and things like that. But also in the building itself is a restaurant, which will be my son's first restaurant. He's a chef. We're putting a cigar lounge, and actually the gentleman's cigar lounge I saw you at, he's putting it in my building. So that'll be his fifth or sixth location. And we got a rooftop terrace patio bar, and then I have another space that I'm not sure what we're going to do with it yet. Probably be a live entertainment lounge, probably.
So why Sistrunk and why spirits?
So Sistrunk, reminds me of where I grew up. And so I wanted to, invest in my own neighborhood and, and support, our people and employ our people. And so that, for me, that was an obvious choice if it made financial sense. And so partnering up with the CRA made it make financial sense. And so then I was committed to that ever since then. The spirits business was just something that, one day I woke up and I said, you know what? I want my own vodka company. And it was like, everybody thought I was crazy. But what it was is I saw how much money people were spending on alcohol. And at that time, nobody had their own, right? And so I said, you know what? This is what I'm going to do. I started researching it, how to do it,
Your norm.
reading about it. And I found a distiller out of South Carolina. So I flew over there, met him, talked to him, said, okay, let's do it. I'm going to have you make my vodka. Well, when they first started it, I said, this is horrible. Like, I can't do this. So they said, well, come back. So I went back, spent some time with them. And I think after about 132 tries, we found the formula. And that was my first vodka company. And that was in 2007. And it became the fastest growing vodka ever in the state of Florida.
Wow. But and even in that process of the distillery, did you see somebody else doing it, or you just saw people making
Nobody
money?
was doing it. Nobody. At that time, you had the bigger brands that were already out there, but it was not identifiable by a person. Now you have hundreds of them, right? But at that time, nobody was doing it, especially black, but black or white. I didn't know one person. I never even heard of one person that had their own spirits brand. And so I was one of the first to do it.
So what's the process? Somebody had an idea, I want to go into the spirit business. What's the starting point? Like, what is it that?
Well, now that I've been in it for a long time, have some money, right? Number one, because it's tougher than what people think. Number two.
What are the tough things about it?
Well, the toughest thing, you got to understand that you're going to need distribution, right? So you got to be able to get a distributor that believes that if they bring your brand in, that it's going to move. You got to understand marketing. You got to understand, trends, like consumer trends and things like that. So I tell people, have a plan. It's not the most difficult thing in the world to start your own spirit and bottle it. It's what you're going to do with it once it's bottled. That's the tougher part. So I advise people and kind of mentor them sometimes about how to get into it. But the number one thing is understanding capitalization. That's the toughest part of it all.
So this sounds like it's similar to what your norm is. Have an idea. I mean, and this also reminds me of the record label.
Right.
It's very similar. And could you give me some similar points? Well, for me, the similar points are the marketing, the distribution. Do you treat it the same way?
I treat it exactly the same way. I could sit in the office and do when I need to do office work, or like yesterday, I'm out visiting stores from the hood to the chain stores and meeting the right people. Business to me is about relationships. People do business with people they like. And, if you can build those kind of relationships where they believe in you, they believe in your product, you should do well.
What's some of your goals for your vodka and other spirits that you're looking to launch?
So right now we have the vodka, we have a caramel vodka, we have a bourbon, we have a rye whiskey, and we're going to launch a tequila this summer. And, once I get those 5 done, we're just going to continue to grow. We're distributing in all 50 states. So we're just going to continue to just grow the brand. My daughter works with me. And so at some point, I'll probably turn it over to her. Like I said, my son's going to have his first restaurant inside of our building. And it's just really at that point, it's just helping them, as they get older and, they start doing it.
How does that feel, man? How does it feel to be able to create a space, a platform that your children is able to grow from?
So I'm not sure if I mentioned it, but when I think about, my whole life, when I thought about like raising my kids, I promised them one thing before they could even understand what words even meant. You never grow up like me. You're my first priority. And I've lived my whole life like that, even though, they're grown and they do their own thing and, that you don't always agree with what they do. But you're there for them, and they know they can count on you. But the more important thing is to lead them, and try to lead them the best way that you can. And that's what I do. And that's my commitment. And so, when you're done, like I do these talks, right. And, around the country and things like that. And one of the things that I say is that most people will live their whole life and never be remembered other than their immediate family or their closest friends. They'll never, ever be remembered because they haven't done anything to help somebody else. And if you're able to help somebody else, not just financially, but, being a friend or going to visit them when they're sick or whatever the case may be, they will tell your story in perpetuity and it will last forever. And that's how I live my life.
Why?
Because I want to be remembered.
You're giving your children the opportunity to build from a platform that you have. Was that purposeful when you were designing or when you were moving to Sistrunk and designing the space? You had all that in mind?
Absolutely, 100%. So our phase 2 of that building, so the building is called the Victory Building, which is named after the old Victory Theater that was on Sistrunk, which at the time, before segregation, that was the only entertainment space they had in Broward County pretty much. And so I didn't want to name the building after me.
It's pretty close, Victor.
Well, I mean, that
You know,
just,
this is a little,
it just
that's a
happened that
little
way.
crazy, but
So what I am doing is phase 2, which is going to be across the street, will be the first Victor George Hotel. So I'm going to build another hotel. And that's probably what I'm going to do when I retire from the spirits business, is focus on that.
what's the experience going to be like in a Victor Hotel?
It's going to be nice. It's going to be boutique. It's going to be, you know, we got the restaurant across the street. It's needed in the area. And that'll be the first of many. Like, we're looking in, you know, some other cities and things like that. But that's what I really want to do. And if you think about this, the correlation of everything I mentioned that I've done pretty much my whole life, it's all entertainment. From sports to music to spirits to hotels. It's all entertainment. I mean,
So basically, you're building what you lived.
correct.
And your children are basically falling in right in line with the whole thing.
They're living their own dream. My daughter, she's a business lady. You know, that's what she wants to do. And she went to school for real estate development. So she kind of mimics me. And she, you know, follows my platform. And she's super smart, probably smarter than me. And that's what she wants to do. That's her own dream, not mine. That's her dream. My son wanted to be a chef. And he went to culinary school, and he's doing his thing. And so he's got his own catering business, and he's doing very, very, very well. And so what do most chefs want at some point? They want their own restaurant. So
Powerful thing that my father's able to, he did the work, don't get it twisted, but to be able to give your children that platform, what does that mean to you?
to be able to do it, I know that it's a blessing, but it's also, again, that resilience to be able to put yourself in a position to do that. And that's what I'm doing. So that's my dream, is to see them succeed in what they want to do, not what I want them to do, what they want to do.
What that's powerful. What are 3 tools that you believe that you utilize every day or in your business that you think that is a must for someone that's looking to do the things that you're doing?
Well, number one probably is you got to have your accounting in place. So, you know, I was reading you guys stuff. So like QuickBooks, we do use QuickBooks, right? You got to have that in place, right? So you got to be able to track, you know, your money. You got to be able to, you know, understand your cash flow and your profit and losses and, you know, all these different things. So I would say that's probably the most significant part of it. I would say that secondly, would probably be in our packaging. We design all of our own packaging. We do all of our, you know, social media in-house, our digital marketing, our social media, we do it all in-house. So we use those different tools to be able to, navigate in those spaces. And then thirdly, books.
That's definitely, there's no question about that.
That's the information. You know, it's the roadmap. You know, that's what we do.
And what would you define success is to you? What is success to you?
Well, I mentioned it earlier. Success is when opportunity meets preparation. To me, that's success. That's where you're going to find it at. Success is not identified by how much money you got or, you know, anything like that. It's putting in the work. You put in the work, right? And you're ready when the opportunity comes. You can't help but be successful.
Do you believe there's balance in personal business and overall business? Do you think is capable to achieve those things?
It is. I put my personal life over my business life, you know, because, you know, you got to stay healthy. You have to enjoy it. You know, the one thing I'm not going to do is I don't chase money, right? I make money. And because of the work that we put in. But I put my personal life first so that I can have that peace of mind moving forward. Building a successful business was never a question. You know, it's like playing football or basketball. It's like if you put the work in and you're good, you know you're going to get drafted, right? It is what it is.
So do you treat business like sports?
I do, 100%.
So that's why the preparation, everything you're talking about is basically makes all the sense in the world, my brother. So question for you. What's the most critical part of your routine?
Proper rest. You know, I get up early every morning. But you know, staying healthy is probably the number one thing. But what I do is, if you think about this, it doesn't cost you any more to get to work an hour earlier. So think about that. If you go to work an hour earlier every day, right? Just call it 5 days a week. You at the end of the month, you put in 20 extra hours, and it costs you nothing. So that's probably what I do. I get all my emails out the way. I do my reading, you know, my praying. I do all that in the morning, right? Get all of that out the way, and then I'm ready to go.
So that's super powerful too. How did you start doing that? Like that routine, that reading and praying, all those things. Like when did that start happening?
I mean, I was always an early riser. You know, we start, you know, practice and training at, you know, weightlifting at 6 a.m. You know what I mean?
So sports actually.
Yeah. So I apply a lot of those principles.
Still to your everyday life.
And then, but a big part of my day, or probably better to say my week, is giving back. You know, whether it's volunteering, whether it's mentoring someone, doing things like this, which I'm thankful for. That's a big part of who I am.
And why is that?
I just told you that most people will never be remembered because they never did anything to help anybody else.
So the more value you give.
Right. And it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, even if it's a donation, it costs you nothing. You're doing it from the goodness of your heart, and you have the ability to do it. So whether it's buying kids bicycles for Christmas, I don't look for anything. You know, we did a program for a couple of years called Santa's Helper, where we worked with 2 foster homes, and we asked the kids to write essays, 1-page essays about what they want to be when they grow up. And working with them, we selected 12 kids each year. We partnered up with Target, and we donated $250 to each kid to go Christmas shopping. And what we did is we partnered them up with a mentor of what they wanted to be. So if you want to be a rapper, a rapper. You want to be a football player? I get you an NFL guy. You want to be a teacher, barber, whatever it was. They volunteered their time to come out, and they were the ones that took the kids into the store to go shopping. And I never, ever, ever took it to the press. I never did anything because it wasn't about me. It was about those kids. And why I chose foster kids is because even though I wasn't in a foster home, I felt like I grew up by myself and just me and my brothers and sisters. And so I kind of related to that. And it's surreal when you see how those kids are.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
You ever I wonder if you were able to go back some of the kids that you helped. You ever connect with any of them, or?
You know, I didn't. I think a lot of that is because of the privacy rules and things like that. But no, I didn't. Sadly.
So, no, that's part of the game. What? Let me make sure I ask this question correctly. What's a lesson that took you the longest to learn?
Protect your credit. Because, a lot of, kids aren't taught financial literacy, right? I remember being in school and, you get these mailers, and, in the student union, they're signing you up for credit cards and, Radio Shack and, Discover Card and all this stuff, right? And you don't understand. Nobody taught you that little piece of plastic that you're able to buy stuff with, you got to pay it back. And so you graduate, and you're ready to go into the real world. You want to go try to buy a car or whatever it is. Like, you got bad credit. Credit, what is that? Well,
and nobody told me about that part.
Yeah, and your total debt is $700. If you would have known, you'd have paid it back. Nobody taught you. So I would say that was the toughest lesson that I had to learn.
Just the whole financial
literacy piece. How do you write a check? I never knew how to write a check.
Right.
How to save. How to even get a bank account. It's like.
But how did you do it? So you just did it.
Yeah, I mean, you just had to learn. I mean, I learned the hard way. I think, my NSF fees probably exceeded my income at some point. You know what I mean? So
that's real. That's real. That's real. What influence do you hope to bring to the world?
I want people to understand the importance of of helping each other. be a door opener. If you're able to, and whatever your chosen profession is, if you're able to, pull somebody else through that door and help them, help educate them and help them get a seat at the table, to me, that's really what I want to do.
That's powerful, my brother. Last question for you, man. Is there something that I didn't ask you that you would want to give the people that's watching this right now?
No, I think you really did your homework, and you can tell
my team did great, but
yeah, you've been doing it a while, and there's really, it's not that, if someone was going to ask me a question, and I think I've already spoken on it, it's like, what's next? I get asked that a lot, like, what's next? And it's just, like I said, just continuing to build the business. And my next thing I want to do is I want to really get some of these other guys, that want to get into the space, particularly Black people, get them to get an opportunity and get a seat at the table.
That's powerful, man. And there's something else I want to, my flowers to you, and some of the things, a couple of things I want to talk about. One, I appreciate brothers like you that believe in their community, that invest back in their community. I definitely commend brothers that take leadership. A lot of brothers don't. I spoke to a couple of other guys about this. When I give them credit for holding their kids down, they're like, that's what I'm supposed to do. But there's a level of care, the level of, the standard that you're doing for your family. That's legendary, man. And I definitely want to give you your flowers for doing it the way you're doing it. Not just taking care of your children, just putting them in position that they could carry the legacy on, for a lifetime. And my question to you is, why was that so important for you? Not just a legacy piece. Was it because of what you went through with your parents, or what you didn't have, or why was that?
I think that's a big part of it. It's a lot of times people get stuck, right, in wherever they are, wherever they grew up, how they grew up, because no one taught them any better. No one, took it upon themselves to create opportunities for them, to lead by example, and so, when I decided to have kids, I knew that it was going to be different for them. Like that's not an option. And, they both went to school, kids these days, they think you don't even need it. And,
right.
Whether you do or you don't need it to be successful. I said, do it for me. I never asked you for anything. Just do it for me, and one day you'll understand why. And now they understand why.
The purpose of it.
They understand that the purpose of it, and now how education is useful, but more importantly, they did it for me. And so now, like my daughter, I have a 3-year-old grandson, and she's like, I see why, because you want it better for us, and so now, they start
super
to see
clear
it.
now.
Yeah.
This is my last question, man, and I want you to be able to tell the people that are watching this. Every entrepreneur, leader, people that resemble what you're doing have that part where everything shifts for them. What was that shifting point for you?
I would say really seeing when you've had something, and we could talk about this. I got to run on maybe another episode or something. But one of the things I didn't mention was that
I'm good. You can talk, brother. We have no.
I just got another meeting.
Yeah. Okay.
But is that when I started my first spirits company, I brought in a partner, and I just really started talking about this. And I told you how I go on these tours and speeches and stuff. It's called the Brokest Millionaire. That's the name of my speaking thing. And what I talk about is how, amongst other things, I talk about mental health, and I talk about all these different things, right?
It's a good podcast.
And so I had the whole company, I lost everything because my partner at the time was my attorney, and he ended up being the biggest Ponzi schemer behind Bernie Madoff, and it cost me everything. So me and my kids went from 10,000 square foot mansion, yachts and all this other stuff, right? Because, I was financially successful, to a 2-room hotel. And from there, I just said, you know what? I got to get them through. And so I had no idea how. And, one of my best friends at the time, came by and he gave me a check and he said, get out of here, man. Go get you somewhere to live and get these kids out of here. And that's what I did. And then I put together another business and started doing it. And I was solely committed to them at that point. Like get them into high school and do all these other things. And, once they, got to college and stuff like that, that's when my daughter comes to me. She's still in college. She said, Dad, you need to get back in the liquor business. She said, that's what you like to do. That's what you love to do. And that's when I started a new company. And now we're 10 times bigger than the first one. So that was the pivotal point.
That was a shift.
Yeah.
My brother, I appreciate your time, man. Thank you.
No, thank you.
God bless. Good night. We're going to make sure to put all your information on the bottom of it also. But I have some other ideas that I want to talk about, man.
Okay.
Like, I feel something.
Yeah.
When I feel something, I make it.
Yeah.
Make it happen. Activate
Let's
it.
chat. I appreciate you.
God bless. Good night, man.